Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 18th NewFound Symposium at the School of Music at Memorial University in beautiful St. John's, Newfoundland. My name is Joe Argentino, and I have the honor of being your host this evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a faculty member here at the School of Music at Memorial University. I am the resident theorist, and I teach the most popular courses here at the school, including music theory and oral skills. Prior to starting the symposium proper, I would like to take a moment for a land acknowledgement. We would like to respectfully acknowledge St. John's, the land on which we perform, and the capital city of the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, as the ancestral homes of the Beothuk. Today, these lands are home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We would also like to acknowledge, with respect, the diverse histories and cultures of the Mi'kmaq, Innu, Inuit, and Southern Inuit of this province, and pay our respects to their elders past, present, and future. We have a really great lineup for you this evening. To kick things off, we have the Fellows that include Daniel Neal on drums, who is also a PhD candidate in ethnomusicology here at Memorial University, the amazing and sought-after Craig Follett on bass, and Berklee College graduate, producer, and composer Grant King on the guitar. This trio has been performing under the name Fellows since 2018. This evening, they will be performing an improvisation on Grant King's Seven Sleepers. Thank you, fellows. What a terrific performance. If you like what you're hearing, please comment on the page that you're currently watching this on. Wow, that was fantastic. Up next, we have pianist and MUN undergraduate music student, Oz Merkavi, who will be performing the Russian composer Nikolai Kapustin's jazz-flavored prelude in F major, Opus 53, number 23. Prior to listening to this performance, I would like to share something that our performer Oz recently told me. Oz's introduction to the music of Kapustin started off as a bit of a prank. A good friend of Oz's informed him that there was a forthcoming piano competition based on Kapustin's etudes. Oz, delighted by the prospect of winning this competition and the monetary award that accompanied it, practiced Kapustin's 8th etude night and day. After a few days and many hours of practice, Oz's so-called friend told him that he was joking. The story does have a happy ending for Oz. He was introduced to Kapustin's music, and he made his friend buy him 3 dinners. As the saying goes, with friends like these, you don't need enemies. Get ready to bop around as we listen to Oz's performance of Kapustin's Prelude. Wow, thank you so much, Oz. If I have my information correct, Oz is currently flying here right now, overseas from Jerusalem. So safe travels to you, Oz, wherever you are. Up next, we will have a presentation by Chanel Roll. Her talk is titled Bohemian Rhymes, the role of children's musical plays in socializing gender and sexuality, and an exploration of the adult-child community. Chanel received her Bachelor of Music in Voice and Musicology from MUN in May 2019. Chanel hopes to become a professional opera singer and ethnomusicologist. And a fun fact about Chanel, if she could have any superpower, it would be teleportation and time travel. She also loves sushi. Everyone out in the virtual world, please put your hands together and welcome Chanel to our virtual stage.
Today, I will be presenting my paper on Bohemian Rhymes, Games, and Children's Songs, an exploration of the expressions of gender and sexuality and the adult-child community. The primary source of this research are interviews I conducted in Nassau, Bahamas in December 2017 with individuals ages 10 to 75. Additionally, Literature that has already been published in books, newspapers, and journals are used in support of this research. This paper analyzes the expressive practices of Bahamian children and explores how their performance displays and reinforces sociocultural ideals of gender roles and expectations, and how sexuality is displayed. The Bahamas is an archipelago comprised of 700 islands and keys. Bahamian culture is a product of its European and African ancestry, sprinkled with influences affected by its proximity to North America and the rest of the Caribbean. Migration and intercultural movements have been a fundamental component in shaping Bahamian society. Children's expressive practices are the oral kinetic activities in children's play, which include the stories they tell, songs they sing, rhymes they recite, games they play, and the ways they step, sway, bounce, and groove in response to the sounds and music they make. Children begin participating in these activities from as young as 4 or 5, but tend to stop playing games between the onset of puberty and the end of adolescence. Minks believes that these kinds of games provide a sanctioned space for imagining and experimenting with gendered and sexual identities. In the Bahamas, ring games, round dances, and hand-clapping games are the most performed children's activities. First, I'll explore gender in children's expressive practices. Girls are considered the primary performers of these musical plays, as they are cooperative activities, which is believed to be characteristic of girls' interactive norms. Even though these musical plays are not typically categorized as boy activities, boys still participate. Girls from Centerville Primary School stated that boys would sometimes play ring games, but they preferred playing sports. If boys were to play a non-athletic game, they played more active and competitive games, like hand-clapping games, such as STOP or Red Hot. These games appealed to them most because it tested their opponent's skill and endurance, while showcasing their mastery of skill and wit. Before pre-adolescence, gender appropriateness is not a factor in game participation. Children view a game as simply a fun activity where they enjoy participating in a shared experience with their peers. However, during pre-adolescent and the adolescent stage, children become more aware of gender expectations and their physical beings. During the pre-adolescent stage, children become members of subcultures like boys and girls, and intercultural units comprised of people with shared experiences and interests, such as athletes and musicians. Here we focus on Caribbean hypermasculinity. Pre-adolescent boys tend to stop playing these games earlier than girls, as these activities are simply not masculine enough. Yet, they continue to interact as onlookers. This reflects the hypermasculine culture of the Caribbean, especially the English-speaking Caribbean. Softness raises suspicions of homosexuality, which is still taboo. Next, we move on to sexuality. Many Bahamian children's songs and musical games have suggestive content that expresses forms of sexuality, ranging from puppy love to blatant sexual activity. This recurring theme of sexuality was fascinating to me. I analyzed Apple on a Stick, Penny Sausage, and This the Way You Bella Be, highlighting the features that constitute their sexual nature. Moreover, theories regarding possible influences behind their sexual nature are explored. Apple on a Stick is a hand-clapping game played by two girls, and its narrative speaks of puppy love.
Apple on a Stick, you make me sick, you make my heart go 246. Not because I'm dirty, not because I'm clean, not because I think about behind the microphone. So come on, baby, let's have some fun. Meet me at the carnival Saturday night. When I come to tell me, I better be ready. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19.
I'm going to read the lyrics out for you. It's apple on a stick, you make me sick, you make my heart go 246. Not because I'm dirty, not because I'm clean, not because I kissed the boy behind the magazine. So come on, Johnny, let's have some fun. Meet me at the carnival on Saturday night. When I count to 20, you better be ready. So here I'm going to analyze the musical and linguistic features. The girls' affection for Johnny are expressed in innocent ways. Using body percussion, the performers take their fist and pound it on their chest, matching the syllabic rhythm of the words 246. This rhythmic pattern is akin to an actual heartbeat, vividly expressing the deep emotion that she feels for Johnny. So demonstrating that, it'll be 246. There are two sections that can be considered suggestive in the text. The first is, I kissed the boy behind the magazine. Kissing is often looked at as innocent, but depending on the adult, even the idea of an adolescent child kissing is inappropriate. Additionally, the setting in which she kissed the boy speaks volumes. Coyly kissing her suitor behind the magazine implies that the character feels it is a naughty action. Next, there is the phrase, so come on, Johnny, let's have some fun, which can be interpreted as her being excited to have a fun night out on her date, or her inviting him to have a sexual rendezvous at the carnival. These lines are open to interpretation, but on the grand scale of sexual behavior, apple on the stick is mild. Bohemian parents consistently recite the proverb, books and boys don't mix. Young children, especially girls, are discouraged from having a boyfriend while in school because they fear that boys will distract them from learning. Also, they believe it limits the chances of teenage pregnancy. Parents don't typically have the same level of concern for boys. Children tend to hide relationships from their authority figures in fear of their possible reactions. The most uncommon response is a parent allowing their child to remain in the relationship. The most usual responses include parents ending the relationship by confronting their suitor and the suitor's parents, commanding that it ends. Another common reaction includes parents physically punishing their child. The most extreme reaction involves public humiliation, where parents publicly embarrass their child in front of their suitor or peers. Parents have even recorded themselves reprimanding their child and shared it on social media. Gender inequality is evident in the way parents handle their daughters in comparison to their sons regarding romantic relationships, which reveals underlying sexism. Penny sausage is an old Bohemian chant traditionally sung to accompany the jumping dance.
That penny sausage and stick penny sausage here and a loaf of bread right there. Take that penny sausage and stick it right in. You know where? Right in there. The devil right in the corner trying to stick it right in there.
Penny sausage is a jumping dance chant that possesses traditional stylistic features. It is typically in 4/4 time. The timeline is either maintained via drum or hand clapping. The rhythm of the words closely approximates the drum patterns. Next, the stylistic movements of the jumping dance are suggestive as it consists of a series of small hip gyrations, followed by a leap or a pelvic thrust that falls on the final strong beat that indicates the next person to enter the ring. Unfortunately, the jumping dance is rarely contemporarily performed. Penny sausage is extremely metaphorical. Its theme revolves around a sausage and a loaf of bread, which was a standard meal in Bohemian homes. The penny sausage and loaf of bread represents the male and female genitalia, respectively. In contemporary Bohemian culture, these terms are still consistently used as a synonym to describe one's sexual organs. In this chant, phrases 3 and 6 are very important lines, as they share the same melodic contour. The third line says, take that penny sausage and stick it right in, whereas the 6th line warns that the devil round the corner trying to stick it right in there. In phrase 3, the there is not said, but it is implied with verbal and rhythmic silence. This meaningful silence is ironically suggestive and leaves listeners thinking of the possible places for him to stick it. Additionally, dancers would fill this void with some sharp gyration, further heightening the sexual connotation. Now here's the big question. Who is the him? At the end of the chant, him hiding around the corner is identified as the devil. The devil is a figure who is characterized as cunning, mischievous, and evil. With this character being personified as a devil, it makes it evident that this male, the sausage bearer, has bad intentions. Overall, the entire narrative of Penny Sausage is highly suggestive and erotic. This The Way You Bellaby is a game that I played growing up. This is performed in a group of equal participants, as there are a lot of movements that require a constant partner.
Around Susie, Susie, Susie. Turn around, Susie, Susie, Susie. Front, back, side, side. Front, back, side, side. Let me punch you in your eye. Turn around, touch your guy. Let me see you jump, jump, out wide, jump, out wide, jump, out wide.
When recording this game, I noticed a new bridge section. When hearing the phrase jump and whine and seeing the girls' movement, it was a clear indication that this variation was inspired by the soca carnival genre. Carnival is extremely popular in the Bahamas at this moment. Like a time capsule, the core elements remained stable, but those features that changed reflect the time in which it was performed. Soca tunes always include themes of jamming, jumping, and whining to describe the high-energy bacchanal activities of carnival. Whining is defined as dancing erotically by swinging the hips vigorously while thrusting the buttocks back and forth. Though all the girls performed a modest whine, at the end of the bridge section, they all laughed and proceeded to bashfully scatter around the room. The tentativeness of their movements and reactions revealed that there was a hint of mischievousness in their actions. They felt shy performing this part in front of an adult, which is an indication that they have been taught that this style of dancing is inappropriate. As a way to discover why, they were asked, do you get reprimanded for playing ring games or if an adult caught you dancing? Some said no, while others said sometimes. One student said, adults think you shouldn't be winding up yourself at a young age. Another said, maybe they think it's a bit funny, which in this context means wrong or unsuitable. One even said they'll say that you're trying to grow up too fast, you're doing stuff too early, or they'll call you womanish. And womanish refers to a young girl who does not act her age. She tries to act like an adult woman in her dress, language, movements, and interactions with other people, doing things that are not considered child appropriate. Next, I'll explore the juxtaposition of conservatism and liberalism. I found the sixth graders' explanations of their elders' responses perplexing. I tried to process the possible reasons for this negative view and summed it up to being a result of the colonial mentality and religion. The Bahamas was once a British colony, and I believe that it still has a bit of a colonial mentality. Expressive practices like whining have historically been viewed in a negative light according to European and upper-class standards. Moreover, the Bahamas is a pro-Christian nation, with 72.3% of the Bahamian population identifying as Christian. The Christian community and older Bahamians typically frown upon sexual expressive forms of dancing. Yet, these forms of dancing are pervasive in the Caribbean, and they are embedded in its identity. Adults unconsciously and sometimes intentionally teach children these embodied practices. With Bahamian adults displaying sexually expressive forms of dancing in their social interactions, these embodied practices are models for the upcoming generation. If this is a model that is regularly being seen, how do parents not expect children to follow these examples? Pre-adolescent and adolescent children seek and follow guidance of the adults in their lives. Whether these adults convey positive or negative messages, they are key influencers. It is evident that the sexual scripts that dominate popular media and social spaces influence the lyrics and gestures seen in children's songs and musical plays. In conclusion, Exploring Bahamian expressive practices has revealed how the performance of children's games and songs reinforce and reflect the Bahamas' sociocultural perspectives on gender roles and performativity. Boys are expected to take part in more masculine activities, otherwise they are derogatorily labeled as gay. Moreover, boys are not under the same surveillance as girls. Bahamian parents tend to overlook boys being in romantic relationships in comparison to their overwhelming concern about their daughters. This reflects the hyper-masculine and sexist nature of Bahamian culture. Bahamian girls are cautioned about their embodied practices, making them conscious of themselves as sexual beings. Children are exposed to sexual narratives through mediums like popular Caribbean music, social media, and most importantly, their families, communities, and schools. The culture of public dancing and freedom of sexual expression in the Bahamas, in conjunction with conservative ideals from the church and elders, give rise to socially contradictory messages. This juxtaposition of conservatism and liberalism can create an internal conflict within a child as they negotiate these messages. It is important to note that children assign meaning to what adults tell them is right and wrong. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your wonderful talk, Chanel. Really enjoyed it. Thank you. You're about to hear the premiere performance of a brand new composition by undergraduate music student Andrew Goss titled Accessorize for Electronics and Clarinet, which will be performed by MUN undergraduate student Cassie Wolfrey. This composition was written during the COVID-19 pandemic. This piece is attempting to create a discussion, both internal and external, about how mental illness is portrayed in society and how that portrayal affects people who have these conditions. Andrew Goss is a third-year composition major here at Memorial, whose interests lie across the field of music. This is Andrew's first piece that incorporates electronics along with clarinet. He hopes that the blending of electric and acoustic instruments can strengthen the messages conveyed within the piece. Without further ado, Accessorize.
Before I start talking about this piece, I want to give a quick thank you to a couple people who were instrumental in today's performance. First, I'd like to thank Cassie for taking the time to learn the piece and for providing important feedback throughout the writing process. I'd like to thank Dr. Forsyth for her help regarding ethics approval for all the interviews conducted. And I'd like to thank all the interviewees for lending me your voices and for believing in the power of music to create social change. Finally, I want to give a thank you to the School of Music, to the board of the festival, and to everyone here recording, without whom none of this would be possible. I'm going to take some time now to talk to you about the topic of the piece. In our community, in our country, and all around the world, mental illness is a reality that many of us have to face. According to the Canadian Mental Health Association, in any given year, 1 in 5 people in Canada will personally experience a mental health problem or illness. By about age 40, around 50% of the population will have or have had a mental illness. Those who will never experience it will still likely have a friend or family member who does. One issue that doesn't get talked about nearly enough is how mental illness is portrayed and understood in media and in society at large. TV shows that present a skewed idea of what it's like to have a specific condition can be harmful to people who actually have that condition. It can create false ideas about what it's like to have it, it can glamorize it, and by presenting a single and often unrealistic experience, it can perpetuate misconceptions. Subtle misunderstandings perpetuated through poor representation can affect how people view themselves and how people are treated by other members of society. This is why the glamorization of mental illness is a big deal. This brings me to the piece you're about to listen to. This piece, Accessorize, started late last spring as an avenue to showcase viewpoints that aren't often discussed. I had just started learning how to create electronic music, and I was excited to create a piece using this new-to-me technology that still had social impact. Not only did I want to talk about the glamorization of mental illness, but I wanted to have honest conversations with people who dealt with mental illness in order to get a deeper understanding of people's experiences. I conducted 7 interviews over the span of a few weeks, with some lasting only 10 minutes, while others lasted closer to an hour. With the informed consent of everyone involved, I took samples directly from these interviews and used them throughout the piece you're about to hear. By taking words directly from people who have been impacted by the glamorization of mental illness, I hope that everyone listening can get a better idea of how this can affect different people. One of the most important messages to take away from this piece is that nobody's experience is the same. Everyone experiences mental illness differently, so it's incredibly crucial that you take the time to listen to others and to believe their experiences. Thanks for listening. This is Accessorize.
The glamorization of mental illness.
I see it in the news.
Basically every social media platform ever.
Twitter.
Instagram,
TikTok.
my office with my coworkers.
Influencers.
Accidentally from my friend.
Character on TV has their mental illness portrayed as a superpower, where if a character goes off their meds, they can suddenly catch the killer. In TV shows, they're like, oh, she has anxiety. Oh, she's just like a nervous girl. She's cute. I hate that, because realistically, mental illness is not cute. It's not beautiful. It's not romantic. It's ugly.
They only show the things that are very obviously visible. There's not a lot of discussion about the kind of inner things that are going on.
And there's different severities for everyone too. Like, if someone tells you they're suffering from depression, like the amount of things that could mean is overwhelming.
Not the whole story, not the whole picture. Personal experience that it makes me feel really isolated. It makes me not want to talk about it because it just seems so overwhelming to try to explain my own experience because it's so far removed from what people expect.
It's just glamorizing fat phobia or glamorizing really dangerous relationships with your body.
Instagram especially, if you have any sort of past of disordered eating at all, it's probably one of the most toxic apps out there. It's hard for somebody who struggles with those kinds of, disordered eating, body image, to see those kinds of things and not translate that into not being able to cope with the way you are in real life.
I don't want to be passed over for things because you have this perception of what I can and can't do based on this one piece of information about me.
With With a good therapist that fits for you, most mental health issues can be worked on in an extremely productive way, though not everybody has access to the help that's right for them.
For people who feel like they're cheating by taking medication that they need to help them get through the day, we wouldn't consider people to be cheating if they took blood pressure medication. How is it any different?
Seeing more content about reaching out to get help, I think, would be more beneficial than what we are currently seeing on social media.
It's also just so dangerous for young people to be exposed to it without having the tools to realize that it's being glamorized.
Thank you, Andrew, for writing a thought-provoking composition, and also thank you to Cassie Wolfrey for your absolutely terrific performance. Beautiful. Up next, we have a talk titled Sonic Control in Arena Acoustics by Jake Danson Faraday. Jake is a PhD candidate in the ethnomusicology department here at Memorial University. Before coming to MUN, he worked as a touring sound technician for several years, so he really knows his stuff. His presentation today is about the invisible labor of sound technicians at Cirque du Soleil. A fun fact about Jake: since 2016, the year he started at MUN, he has presented at the NewFound Symposium more often than he has been home to Halifax for Christmas. Sorry, family, but good for us. Let's put our virtual paws together for a moment and welcome Symposium All-Star Jake Danson Faraday and his talk, Sound Technicians and Technology at Cirque du Soleil.
Thank you, everyone. In this paper entitled Corporate Sound, Invisible Labor, I discuss the sound design of a Cirque du Soleil touring arena show called Corteo. I focus on how Corteo's sound designers and touring sound technicians work to erase the local sonic signature from an arena. The unique architectural acoustic of a venue is discarded or attenuated to make way for Corteo's proprietary sonic product, which includes the sound mix an audience hears, for example, the music or the sound effects, as well as the way those sounds are transmitted, so for example, the speakers or the PA. This erasure of the local is predicated on a corporate understanding of the show as an experience. Ideally, Corteo should sound the same night after night, city after city, country after country, year after year. Using various tools and measurements, Corteo's sound technicians adjust, align, and equalize, or EQ, the PA to compensate for the deficiencies or excesses of the frequency response of the room. They can also request acoustic treatments to deaden architectural reverberation. And for example, here at the Suncore, I see drapes, I see special panels on the walls to control the acoustic here. I'll play a clip now from an interview with Christian, the head of the sound department on Corteo, where he discusses the sound of a specific venue. He views sonic control as desirable because it makes his job easier and more enjoyable.
This venue, we said, sounds really clean and clear, and so technically it's easier for us to get a better amount of control over what the audience is hearing. Therefore, the mix is made easier because I'm spending more time enjoying the mix and doing that as opposed to trying to fix things. A lot of what we do is very corrective, like EQ.
For Christian, good sound is, among other things, controlled sound. An arena sounds good when it is non-reverberant, when it doesn't really sound like anything at all. Corteo's sound technicians want a clean, clear acoustic that allows for an even, efficient dispersal of the pure, amplified signal of the sound design. I'll now play an excerpt from an interview with Jean-Michel, Corteo's sound designer. He speaks about the sound design as a collaboration between many different people, including the performers. He also indicates that there's a degree of rigidity in the sound design when it goes on tour.
When you send that show to a sound mixer and operator, you hope that that person's going to understand that those choices were made between the composer, the sound designer, the director of the show, even sometimes the coach and the artist on stage. Some of the act, they need to be able to communicate, so sometimes we give them a little break in the music so they can scream at each other and say, okay, we're going to do this trick, it's now. So if you push the music, and you could, you could put people in danger. So this is all choice that sometimes as a sound designer, you need to respect, and you need to, you hope that somebody is going to keep doing those and say, okay, I'm there to operate, I'm there to respectfully accept the design the way it is, but it's not always that easy. Lots of people will come and say, oh, I'm going to make it a little bit my way. There's a way to do it, but changing a mix, it's not really the way we want it for certain.
Here, Jean-Michel outlines how and why the sound design should stay as it is. But he goes further than an erasure of the venue itself. His notion of sound design erases the touring sound technicians as well, reducing them to operators tasked to reproduce the work of a creative hierarchy through invisible, strictly technical labor. The work of adapting or eliminating the sonic signature of an arena is done by sound technicians and is assumed and taken for granted in the sound design. This labor is rendered invisible and devalued by a corporate creative hierarchy that places the composer and the sound designer, people who generally aren't on tour, at the top, and the sound technicians or operators below. Erasure and invisibility are recurring themes in this mode of touring. On Corteo, for example, microphones are hidden in costumes, and the speakers are decorated to blend in with the set. While Corteo follows a theatrical design paradigm that hides technology and technicians from the audience, it also follows a neoliberal practice that erases and anonymizes apparently non-specialized or mere technical labor, and a colonialist approach to the privatization of space. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jake. Wonderful. Up next, we will have a performance of MUN alumnus/composer Andrew Noseworthy's Dissension. Dissension is a 3-movement work for classical guitar duo commissioned by the Altius Duo from Toronto, Canada. I believe we will be hearing the first movement of this work. Tonight, this piece will be performed by Ben Diamond, a 4th-year MUN Bachelor of Music student in classical guitar performance, and Canadian virtuoso guitarist and MUN faculty member, Professor Sylvie Prue. A couple of things that you may or may not know about our performers this evening. Ben has accidentally driven over the parking lot curb outside of the music building too many times to count, and he would like to sincerely thank all faculty and staff for not judging him. But here's the thing, Ben. We do judge you. Sylvie is an avid gardener whose passion for plants has often driven her, but unlike Ben, she's a great steer, to carry on beyond sunset to finish digging a plant bed, flashlight and shovel in hand. This self-described plant geek likes to push biodiversity to the limit by introducing tropical and desert-loving species such as banana trees and cacti in her St. John's garden. As a matter of fact, this year, her pear cactus bloomed for the first time. Way to go, Sylvie. Please welcome to the stage A1 driver and guitarist extraordinaire, Ben Diamond, and green thumb guitarist virtuoso Sylvie Prue, performing Andrew Noseworthy's Dissension.
Joe? Me? Thank you, Sylvie and Ben. And a big thank you to composer Andrew Noseworthy. Where's Joe? Wait a second. What is this? A flash drive? It says play. Play me. Pete, do you know about this? No, man. Here, let's check it out.
Where in the world is Joe Argentino?
His theory students have been diminished in his absence, some even fully diminished. They're writing parallel fifths and improperly resolving leading tones. It's a disaster of harmonic proportions. His last known location was room number 2016 in the M.O. Morgan Building, Memorial University, St. John's, Newfoundland. Gumshoes, it's up to you to figure out.
Where in the world is Joe Argentino?
Enough exposition. Gumshoes, we've just received the first of our clues. If he's lucky, Joe could see the aurora borealis in various spots around this part of the world. He is located in the part of the Earth that boasts 90% of the world's population. And guaranteed, Joe will not run into any of these animals on his journey. Submit your guesses to music@mun.ca. That's music@mun.ca. So we have 3 new clues to help you hone in on Joe's location. Joe is likely speaking a Romance language, along with 215 million other people in this part of the world. 10 countries and principalities in this part of the world still have monarchies for some reason. And we know that Joe is somewhere in the world where he can spend stacks and stacks of that Eurocash, baby. Think you know where in the world Joe Argentino is? Send your guesses to music@mun.ca. We need you back on this case, Gumshoes. Luckily, here are 3 new clues to help you hone in on Joe's location. Maybe Joe is competing in this country's famous race that takes place over 23 days and covers 3,500 kilometers. The top award at a film festival held in this country is the Golden Palm. Hey, didn't I see Joe walk the red carpet with Lauren Graham? And let's hope Joe's not lactose intolerant, because this country produces over 400 different kinds of cheese. Think you know where in the world Joe Argentino is? Email music@mun.ca with your guess.
When in the world is Joe Argentino?
When in the world is Joe Argentino? That is now your case. You'll need to use all the evidence you've already gathered, plus these 3 new clues to bring Joe back to the future. We have a hunch Joe is hanging out during the time of the guillotine. This horrific execution apparatus was first used during the Reign of Terror, a century before Joe's time, and was last used a century after. At this time in history, horse manure was a real problem in big cities. With something like 80,000 horses in Joe's city, that's a lot of poop. The Statue of Liberty was completed and shipped from Joe's location to the U.S. during this decade. While most people claim the statue depicts Libertas, the Roman goddess of liberty, we now know better. All right, Gumshoes, you're up to speed. Don't forget to tune in to the NewFound Music Festival Gala tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Newfoundland time for the final episode in our series, so you can decide.
Who in the world is Joe Argentino?
Somebody give that man tenure. But in all seriousness, we have reached the point in the symposium where we welcome our keynote lecturer and performer, Dr. Xenia Kostova-Bennett. Dr. Bennett is an innovative performer and educator, described by Tempo as a powerhouse of contemporary keyboard repertoire, stunning by the Wales Arts Review, ravishing by Pizzicato, and remarkably sensuous by the New Zealand Herald. She has earned a reputation as a leading interpreter of uncompromising repertoire alongside masterpieces from the past. Xenia's commitment and dedication to promoting music by living composers has led to her commissioning of dozens of new works and collaborative projects with major innovators in contemporary music. Her widely acclaimed recordings of duo works by John Cage, Karl-Heinz Stockhausen are available on the Naxos label. Dr. Bennett will be speaking and playing for you from her garden, where she will share her sonic environment and surroundings. Her keynote address will introduce the music that she will be performing. Please welcome Xenia and her toy piano into your homes and into your hearts.
Thank you for joining me in this colorful landscape. You can probably hear the seabirds and the crows and maybe little bits of traffic, maybe a little bit of wind, birds chirping, different sounds of the environment. This is my everyday environment right here in a small town by the sea. And I have my little toy piano here outdoors, so I will play for you some toy piano music. This is a very unusual and difficult time for everyone and for musicians, of course. So it is difficult to say something that is wise or comforting or inspiring. And I'm very touched that I was invited to give this mini talk and mini recital. It is a real honor. But it's hard to know what to share in this time. So all I can do is speak to you from my experience and from my heart as it is right now. I'm really happy to have 3 new pieces to present to you. We have movements from Tina Pearson's new work, which just appeared, so hot off the press, based on another piece that she wrote for myself and Sean Matevetsky on tabla. So this is Migration in Breath and Materials. And the 2 movements that I'm presenting for you are Ancient Air, Prelude, and The Return of Blood and Bone. And Tina uses imagery of greeting and acknowledging ancestral voices, which is extremely powerful in this time. So what I can take from this experience and share with you is the importance of acknowledging who we are and where we came from, and how this also impacts our journey going forward through uncertainty. So perhaps we can find strength in knowing that we've had difficult experiences before and emerged and managed to come out and persevere and learn and grow. And we hope to continue learning and growing as a species and learning to adjust and take care of our planet better than we have been up until this moment. Another new piece that I'm very pleased to present is the world premiere of a work by Cleo Montre, The Enchanted Forest. And Cleo uses imagery of the wind in the trees, and I was really struck by this image because it is exactly the image that I was influenced by in my little improvised offering, fairy music. And this little moment occurred when I was out walking at night, and the autumnal air was just swirling around, the trees were swaying, and I could hear some distant, mysterious wind chimes. And you know how sounds are enhanced by darkness and sound so much more beautiful and enticing when we don't know their origin. So I could imagine mysterious creatures making music in the trees as the wind sang. And I think we can find, again, strength from our surroundings, our environment, the nature that we inhabit. And lastly, just being with our experiences, with our sensations, and with our breath. So over the past years, I've been developing a practice of meditation that has been very helpful. And this brings me back to Tina's music, which uses the breath to guide the performer. So in Gentle Hands, which is an excerpt from the earlier work, the passage of the music is guided by each inhale and exhale. And this happens again in the two movements discussed earlier. The breath is paramount, guiding sound as well as focus and mindset. So if at all possible, even though the world feels like it is speeding up and spinning out of control, and we have constant demands on our time, especially with screens and devices, I invite you to find time in your day to step away from all of that, even just for a few seconds, and breathe. Remember to breathe. We tend to unconsciously hold our breath in difficult situations. We impede the flow and exchange of nutrients. So it is really important just to become aware of what is happening in the body physiologically, as well as what is happening psychologically and emotionally as we go through challenges. And sometimes just pausing and finding awareness is enough to reset something and to send a message to our nervous system that everything is okay, to recalibrate and elicit the parasympathetic response, which will counteract the fight or flight that we habitually live in. So take a moment and breathe.
Thank you so much, Xenia. I hope you all enjoyed that program, taking a moment to breathe. Please join us again tomorrow evening at 7:30 for the NewFound Gala, and again on Saturday for a co-presentation with the Sound Symposium. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.